These three stories all happened in people's backyards, places they felt safe. What they found out is that they hadn't been alone out there for a long time. My name is Rachel. At the time this happened I was 27, living in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. My husband Travis had just left for a 4-day work trip to Chicago. So it was just me, the house, and a Tuesday evening in late July. I'd decided to grill. Nothing special, just some chicken and corn. I had my Bluetooth speaker out there, a glass of wine, the whole thing. It was maybe 7:30, still light out but starting to get that golden hour dimness where the shadows stretch longer than they should. Our backyard isn't huge but it feels private. We have a 6-foot wooden privacy fence on 3 sides, and then the back of the property kind of opens into a strip of trees before the next street. Not a forest or anything, just maybe 30 feet of tree cover between us and the neighborhood behind ours. I was standing at the grill, flipping the chicken, not really thinking about anything. And I looked up toward the back of the yard, past the fence line, toward those trees. There was someone standing there. Or at least I thought so. It was just this vertical shape in the dim space between the trees. Dark clothing, or maybe just shadow. I squinted at it for a second and told myself it was probably one of the neighbors walking their dog, or a kid cutting through. It wasn't unusual for people to walk through that strip of trees. I went back to grilling, but every time I looked up, the shape was still there. Not moving, just standing. I finished grilling, ate outside, watched it the whole time. Maybe 40 minutes passed. The shape didn't move once. By now the sun was basically down and I couldn't make out any detail, just a vertical mass in the shadows where the trees started. I told myself it was a tree stump. I told myself I just hadn't noticed it before. I brought my plate inside. I don't know why I didn't just go look. I think I didn't want to confirm what I already felt, which was that something was wrong. I washed my dishes and kept walking to the sliding glass door to look out. Every time I looked, still there. Still not moving. I texted Travis. Just said, "Hey, are you free to call?" He didn't respond for about 20 minutes because he was at dinner with co-workers. I checked all the door locks. Both deadbolts, the garage side door, the sliding glass door. Then I went to the sliding door and turned off the kitchen light so I could see outside better without the reflection. The shape had moved. It was no longer at the tree line. It was pressed up against my fence. I could see 2 hands gripping the top slat of the fence. Just the hands and the top of a head, not enough to see a face. But whatever it was standing right against the fence on my side, and the head was tilted slightly, like it was looking directly at the sliding door. At me. I called 911. I whispered because I don't know why, I just felt like I needed to be quiet. I moved to the front of the house while I was on the phone. 2 officers arrived in maybe 6 minutes. They searched the yard and the tree strip behind it. Nobody was there. But one of the officers called me over and shone his flashlight at the bottom of the fence on the far left panel. 3 screws had been partially removed from the outside. The panel was loose. It would have swung open if you pulled it. They found footprints in the mulch along the fence line. Adult-sized. They pointed toward the sliding door. We never found out who it was. Travis came home early the next morning. We had the fence repaired and cameras installed within a week. But I still think about the fact that I was standing out there grilling for almost an hour while someone stood in those trees and watched me. Just waited. Patient. The next one is the story that took me the longest to get through the first time I heard it. Because everything about it was deliberate. The person in this story didn't stumble onto someone's property. They planned it, and they knew exactly where the camera was. This happened in October 2021. My name is Derek and I live on about 3 acres in rural Tennessee, maybe 45 minutes outside of Nashville. The back of my property borders a stretch of wooded land that goes on for probably a quarter mile before you hit another road. It's quiet out here. That's the whole point of living here. It was a Thursday night, late October. We'd had a bad storm system move through heavy rain, not a lot of wind, just this steady downpour that had been going since around 6 p.m. I was inside watching TV around 10, and my wife was already in bed. I have a motion-activated floodlight mounted on the back of the house, above the door. It lights up the whole backyard when anything crosses the sensor. Deer set it off occasionally. Raccoons sometimes. That night it triggered around 10:15. I looked up at the window. Just saw rain and the lit up yard. Nothing there. Assumed it was an animal and went back to the TV. It triggered again at 10:34. I checked again. Nothing. Then again at 10:51. At that point I pulled up my security camera app on my phone. I have 2 cameras covering the backyard, one mounted high on the right corner of the house, one lower on the left near the back door. I scrubbed back through the footage from the 10:51 trigger. There was something at the edge of the tree line. It was hard to make out because of the rain and the camera quality at night, but it was upright. Moving along the tree line slowly, not the quick darting movement of a deer or a dog. More like a person who was being careful about where they stepped. I watched the 10:34 clip. Same thing, a shape moving along the right side of the tree line, then stopping. Then retreating back into the trees when the light came on. I sat there on the couch for probably 2 minutes without moving. I kept telling myself it could still be a person just cutting through my property. Maybe someone whose car broke down on the road behind the tree line. Maybe a hunter. The floodlight triggered again at 11:09. I watched the live feed. The figure was in the middle of the yard. Just standing there in the pouring rain. Facing the house. Not moving. I watched it for 6 minutes. I have the timestamp. 6 minutes of standing completely still in a downpour, in the dark, staring at my house. Then it started walking toward the back door. Slow. Steady. I could see it clearly now because it was moving into the floodlight range. Dark jacket, hood up. I could not see the face. About 10 feet from the door it stepped sideways, out of frame. And then I heard something press against the back door. Not a knock. Not a bang. Just a slow, steady pressure like something leaning into the door from the outside. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep in the hall closet and called 911. I stood in the hallway and did not move until I heard the sirens. Police searched the property and the tree line. Nobody found. But when they checked the back door with a flashlight they found fresh scratch marks around the keyhole. Deep ones. Like someone had been working at the lock. The officer told me the scratches looked recent, within the last day or 2. I spent the next week going back through my camera footage. I found the figure on 3 separate nights before that Thursday. Always at the tree line. Always between 10 and midnight. Always gone before I would have noticed. But the thing that bothers me more than anything, in every single clip, the figure never once looked up at either camera. Not once. They knew exactly where both cameras were. If the last story scared you, and I think it should have, the last one is different. Because this one happened slowly. Over days. And by the time this woman understood what was actually going on, it had already been happening for a week. My name is Jen. I'm 43 now, but this happened 2 years ago when I was living in a neighborhood outside of Albany, New York. Quiet area. Mostly older couples and families. I'd lived there 6 years without a single issue. I have a dog named Murphy. He's a 4-year-old beagle mix and honestly a little dramatic about everything, so when he started acting weird I didn't immediately take it seriously. It was late April, warming up, and Murphy had been spending a lot of time in the backyard. My yard is fully fenced, 6-foot chain link on 3 sides, wooden privacy fence along the back. One morning I went out and noticed he'd been digging in the back corner, right where the chain link met the wooden fence. Small hole, maybe 8 inches across. I filled it in with dirt and some rocks and didn't think much of it. Next morning it was open again. Bigger. I figured Murphy had just found something interesting, a scent or a grub or whatever beagles care about. I filled it in again. Day 3 open again. Wider. Deep enough now that a small dog could fit through. I went out and crouched down to fill it in again, and that's when I noticed something that made me stop. The dirt. When a dog digs, the dirt gets thrown back behind them, inside the yard. That's just how it works, but the mound of displaced dirt from this hole, most of it was on the outside of the fence. Murphy wasn't digging out. Someone was digging in. I stood there for a while trying to think of other explanations. Maybe the dirt had just gotten kicked around. Maybe the rain had moved it. I didn't want to believe what I was looking at. That night I set up a baby monitor camera, one of those cheap indoor ones that picks up some night vision, and aimed it at that corner of the yard. I put it on the window ledge on the 2nd floor where it had a clear angle. I went to bed at 11 and checked my phone every hour. At 2:14 a.m. I saw movement on the feed. 2 hands came under the fence from the outside. Human hands. Adult-sized. They reached through the gap and began pulling dirt from inside the yard, passing it back through to the outside. Methodical. Slow. Patient. I watched for almost 3 minutes before I could make myself move. I called 911. I did not go outside. Police responded and searched the tree line and the woods behind my property. About 400 feet into the tree line they found a tarp shelter, the kind you'd build if you'd been living outdoors for a while. There was food, a sleeping bag, some clothing, evidence that someone had been out there for weeks. They had a clear sight line to my backyard from that shelter. Nobody was ever identified. Nobody was ever caught. I moved 6 weeks later. Murphy still gets anxious near fences. I don't think much about why. I already know.